The show is sponsored in part by Jackie Mahali Photography, where personal branding, photography, and video help women entrepreneurs over 40 feel confident, beautiful, and seen. Start getting paid what you're worth. JackieMahaliPhotography.com when it's time to elevate your brand and your image. Hey everybody, I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating and supporting strong and successful women and sharing their stories. I'm hoping you will be inspired to pursue your own dreams, reclaim your voice, and discover your strengths. My guest today is Alison Kosik. Alison is a journalist and anchor on ABC News. She is also a new author. Her new book is called What's Up with Money? What's Up with Women and Money? How to Do All the Financial Stuff You've Been Avoiding. Alison, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for coming on.
Jill, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. So, first of all, I want to talk to you about your incredible book. I loved it. I read it.
Oh, thank you.
It's so good. It's a real guide. I mean, really takes you through everything. So even buying a car, even getting like all that stuff. So I do want to have a huge section on that. So ladies, keep listening. But first, I want to really take time to celebrate you and that you've been in the news business for quite a while now.
You're dating me, but that's okay.
Well, that's okay because we met kind of early on, right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk about all of that. So let's start here. Let's start now. You currently work at ABC News, right?
I'm a freelancer there, yes.
Yeah. All right. So, and then before that, you were at CNN as a business reporter. So.
Yeah, I was CNN's business correspondent and anchor, yes, for more than 15 years. Great opportunity. Enjoyed it.
So tell us about now, what's your job? What is the actual, what do you do? And what is your day like?
What's my day like? There is no normal day now that this book came out. It seems like I think more of my time is being taken up by the book than actual work, but it is work to do the book. But no, I'm freelancing at ABC News. I was laid off from CNN a couple of years ago.
The big layoff. Yeah, when they laid off a lot of people, right?
Yeah, I think like 400 people were laid off that time. So I was one of those. I think the news business obviously is going through a huge transformation, and I still love it. I'm still hanging on. I'm enjoying my opportunity at ABC, and we'll see where that goes.
Well, did you always want to be in news? I mean,
I did, yes, from a very young age. I grew up in Florida, and I was born in Miami and grew up in Pembroke Pines. And I used to, watch the news, and it was Peter Jennings who was my person. And I really just, there was something about watching ABC News that I was so drawn to, and Peter Jennings. And so I used to write a lot. And so I used to go through the Miami Herald, and they used to run these essay contests. And so I would always be scouring the newspaper for these essay contests. I think I wanted some sort of justification that I was a good writer because I would always enter these contests. And many times I would actually win, but I kind of think that I probably won because not many other people took the time to to send in essays. But I remember one time I won an opportunity to be in the parade in Pembroke Pines, like the city parade. I was the city mayor for a day. And then another was like this, name one of the best businesses that you frequent and why it resonates with you. And I wrote an essay about that, and they did a whole full page ad on me in the Miami Herald. But but at the crux of it, I think I was eager to write. I was eager to kind of, if someone was saying write about X, I wanted to write about X and do it so well that I would win a contest. And that really helped me, I guess, get inspired to want to write more and more. And I started writing in high school for the Sun Sentinel a little bit. And then I realized, I can put pictures and audio to the words I'm writing. And I got interested in TV journalism, to actually something that I would want to do myself. And so I was really driven at a young age to want to do that. It's now that I have kids who are 19 and 22, they have an idea, obviously, what they want to do, but I definitely knew what I wanted to do at a very young age. I think must have been 12 years old. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a journalist, and I'm very lucky that I've been able to be that.
So where did you start then? What was you went to school for journalism too?
I did. I went to
College?
American University in Washington, D.C.,
Right.
and did a lot of working there. So I went, obviously took classes, but Capitol Hill was kind of my journalism playground. I would
Wow.
work um, oftentimes two internships or a job and then two internships at once just to have access to, all those newsmakers on Capitol Hill and that experience of interviewing senators and congressmen and being in rooms with, big names at that time, Hillary Clinton and just you name it. I mean, I was on the in the front seat of all of the news making headlines, and it was so empowering and so inspirational, and it really made me become even more driven in what I wanted to do. There were some jobs. I even worked for C-SPAN, as audio. I didn't know a thing about audio, but I took the job because I wanted to be in the room.
Mhm. Which you know what, I want to talk about that. We'll touch that upon things like that because you have a little section in the book about imposter syndrome and fake it till you make it. So I love it. So I want to talk about that, but it's right. You have to just try, right? You just have to do. You just,
Yeah, I did. I that's that particular C-SPAN job. I remember I was an assistant to the audio person, and I just remember I was told, they're very specific on how you run around the room and hold the mic for somebody, and I would be dragging cables and doing funny things just to have access.
hmm. And then what happened? How did you get your first job? I mean, were you working on a tape while you were doing all these things, or how'd you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I got a fellowship during high school or just before college to come to New York City with the International Radio and Television Society, and that kind of gave me a good amount of time here in New York to live and to make contacts. And fast forward, I was able to get my first job at CBS NewsPath, which is the affiliate services division of CBS, and I was a producer, and I worked, the evening shift. I made $100 a day. I lived across the street from Columbia University with like four or five other girls in this big apartment. And I was having so much fun, but I ran out of money. Um, and so during my time at CBS NewsPath, yes, I was the great thing about working at an affiliate services news division, I had access to a lot of tape and made friends with photographers, so they would go shoot stand-ups for me. And so I kind of put together kind of a mock tape,
Hmm.
of stories. I wrote packages and did stand-ups and got somebody to edit it all for me. And I sent out my tape, and I got a couple of offers. I got one offer from a West Virginia TV station that wanted me to come and be an anchor. And at the same time, I got an offer to be a reporter in Corpus Christi, Texas. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be an anchor. No, I want to be a reporter, a scrappy reporter. Little did I know I probably would have made much more money being an anchor in West Virginia. But when you're 20, 22 years old, you're like, I just want to go for the dream, the scrappy
Right.
reporter. So I took the Corpus Christi job. It was fantastic. I mean, I loved it. It really started my reporter journey.
Oh my good. It's so funny because I think most people think that being on TV, you just make so much money. Like even in a small market, and it is a joke the amount of money you make.
Oh
Like
yeah,
it still is. And it
I
still
yeah,
is.
well, back then, and I don't know what the salaries are now, but back then I was offered $13,000 a year in Corpus Christi. And
That's
I worked overtime, but you would get overtime. So just to show you how much overtime I made the first year I was there, I think I pulled in $21,000 that year. So I worked that much overtime. I was always working. But you know what? I was just having this conversation because the Yolanda Saldivar, the woman who sadly killed Selena, because I covered that story. I remember that I was just talking with that story because I covered that. That was one of the big stories that I
wow.
covered in Corpus Christi was her being shot. It was huge. And but I was saying I forget who was asking, one of my friends was asking what it was like being in Corpus Christi in general.
Mhm.
And even though I wasn't making a lot of money,
Mhm.
I was I was kind of free. I was young, I was doing what I wanted, I was passionate about what I wanted. And yes, I was doing everything at that Corpus Christi station. I did weather, which is really funny. I anchored, I wrote my own stuff, and I edited my own stuff. And thankfully, we had photographers who would schlep around the heavy gear because back then it was like 3/4 inch tape gear, and it was just really heavy, the camera and the tripod and everything. But I loved it, even though I made no money.
And you worked like a dog. You worked
Yeah,
like a
but
dog.
I had a great time. I was talking with my friend about how, because once again, the Selena thing came up, and I was just thinking how I had no furniture. Like I used like the brown boxes that I moved there with were my nightstands, and I slept on the floor on like an egg crate, and my couch was this futon that you can pack up. I mean, my thinking back then was I needed to be able to pick up and move in a matter of like hours, because if I got a job somewhere, I'd want to pick up and move. And so I wound up moving a lot. Like I almost moved, I feel like I moved every year and a half in Texas as I got jobs or an opportunity. And yeah, I had like fold up, throw out furniture,
Oh my,
makeshift furniture.
oh my gosh. So then you went, at what point, when did you get on CNN? And was that like a pinch me moment when you finally were like, wow, okay, this is kind of cool?
Oh yeah, I'd moved to New York, and I got a call. I had made contacts because I had been living in DC, and I was working for another broadcast group there, but on the same floor where CNN News Source was. This was a couple blocks from the White House, and I used to go and hang out at CNN News Source, like in my when I had some downtime, and I would talk with the bureau chief. And so we got to know each other. I got to know a lot of the reporters there. When Brianna Keeler was there, starting out as a scrappy news source reporter for CNN, and now of course she has her own show on CNN.
That's next for you.
And
You never know.
yeah, well, I heard stories about her, and then got to know a lot of the CNN reporters and for News Source. And then I came to New York for a job, and then left that job. And right when I was leaving, the reason I was leaving that job was because I got a call from CNN News Source.
Wow.
This is when they were at the New York Stock Exchange, and they needed maternity leave,
Right.
someone to replace someone's maternity leave while she was on maternity leave. And I remember telling the woman on the phone, I don't I don't have any experience reporting in business news. How am I going to do that? And she was so sweet, and she's in Atlanta, and she goes, "Oh, honey, don't worry about that. You're going to do just fine. You're going to learn it." I was like, "What?" But she was right. I did. I really busted my ass.
Mhm.
And I was so happy to have the opportunity. I would um go to work I was freelancing for a few months, and would go to the stock exchange, and I had a fantastic producer, but I would do tons of research. I would talk with everybody on the floor. And yeah, I was able to really take in what I needed to know in order to be a business correspondent there at the New York Stock Exchange.
Wow. I never told this to anyone, but it's so funny because years ago I had an agent, right? And I got a interview at Yahoo Business, I guess, right?
Yeah,
And I went to the floor of the stock exchange, and I know I met Bertha Coombs.
right.
She was on at one point earlier. She was on, Channel 7, and then she was on, and she was telling me all about it and all this, and I was like, I can't do, like, I know nothing about business. Like, I'm not, I can't do this. Like, and I remember saying to my agent, I was like, I just don't even know enough about it to speak on it at all. So that went by the wayside. But it's so funny that you were brave enough to say, yeah, I'm taking it. I'm giving it a go.
Yeah, it was brave. I think it was
Yeah.
also maybe desperation, because, and it was I didn't have, I wasn't working in something that I was enjoying at the moment. So to get that call was seriously like,
Yeah.
it was,
Divine intervention.
it really was. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, talk about the universe coming to save me.
Yeah.
And I guess it was kind of like that, figuring out, and I didn't even, I'm not one who puts phrases on things, this imposter syndrome thing, but imposter syndrome became sort of a phrase that we use more often, and it's real.
Mhm.
And I certainly did have that, even though I didn't really express it. But I really did that fake it till you make it thing. And um,
I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people do. And you
Yeah,
even had it in your book, and you had a lot of celebrities who say 100%. Yeah.
yeah, Jessica Alba speaks about it in my book. She talks about imposter syndrome and about how imposter syndrome, Jessica said, made her feel tremendously vulnerable and exposed. And she gives tips on how to break free of it. And she focuses on the light, she says, she focuses on the goal to push to, or the push to move her forward. And she does say it's the fake it till you make it mentality, and focusing on the ideal outcome, that you have to start behaving as if it's already happening. And now that I'm sitting here talking about my that moment with you, I think that that's really what I did. I was behaving like it was already happening. But in my situation, I didn't only behave as if it was already happening. It began happening, and simultaneously I was becoming more and more well versed in the topic that I had to really dive into.
That's so funny that you say that, because as you're talking, I mean, that's the secret of manifesting, right? That's it right there. And you even talk about that. You talk about visualization and everything. Oh my God, there's so much to talk about your book, but I loved it. I loved it. And
Thank you.
what's so interesting is where I think this is what I think about women especially, but men too. I feel like we always wait till we're fully prepared to start something, but this really, the reality is you'll never be perfect at anything, so you might as well jump in, right, with
Oh,
both feet.
oh, right on. You are so right about that. I think that as women, we think that we have to be experts at everything we do. We have to have it fully researched to know that we're capable of doing it. And I don't think men are put in the same situation where they put themselves in that situation. I don't feel like they do. I think that they fake it till they make it, and they don't, and they're already believing they've already made it.
Right.
And yeah, I don't think we have to have it 100% figured out, which by the way has a lot to do with investing as well. You
Hmm.
don't have to be a genius, a financial genius to be able to invest in the market. You don't have to have it 100% figured out. At least in the market, you have to be in it. And you have to be in it for the long term.
Well, I want to talk about that. I mean, oh my goodness, we only have a little over 3 minutes left for this segment, but I want to talk about what advice would you give to women and men who want to start in the news industry at this point? What would you say to them?
Oh, I think social media is really dominating. And I think if I was going to jump into journalism as a young person, because I see the consolidation happening in the news business, I probably would try to still get a job in traditional media, just so you see journalistically how things actually work. For example, the importance of oftentimes double sourcing and triple sourcing the information that you're getting. It's so important, and not just splaying it up on social media. I think having those sort of the journalism background is so important, and actually living and breathing it for a little bit is super important. And if I was a young person, I would sort of get my feet wet at a traditional news place where I can actually learn the ropes with people who've been in the business a while. And then I would somehow parlay it into a social media something where I'm a trusted and yeah, where I'm a trusted news source on social media.
Yeah, I think that's a good, some good advice. So, how do you de-stress from all of it? Because news is a stressful situation. It's a stressful environment constantly. So, how do you de-stress?
I exercise. I've turned into a runner, and so I run and I
I'm
try to
trying
do
to do that.
yoga.
I'm trying to do that. So, God bless you. That's not easy.
I don't do that often. I mean, lately I've been busy, but when I'm in it, I'm really on it, and I'm run. And it's funny because all I have to do is run like 20 minutes, and I'm good. Like I feel it definitely de-stresses me. So I've definitely, I think exercise is the way that I de-stress from all the craziness.
Oh my goodness. And I've seen your posts when you've gone for a run. I mean, God bless you, look great running. I
Thank
certainly
you.
I don't look that way when I run.
Oh,
But
Jill, don't put
oh,
yourself down like that. Don't
oh,
talk
but
about my friend like that.
oh, that's nice. You're very nice. But no, I mean, I guess I don't have that like that refresh, that glow about me when I'm running, right? Like so some people look good. Allison, you look good. I look like, okay, Jill's like, because I'm starting back into, I used to run, but now I'm start back into it. And,
Well, we'll have to go running together. We can
oh
inspire
God,
each other.
okay. All right. I will do that. Well, yeah, and see what happens. And you'll be off ahead and I'll be like, "Wait for me, Allison. Wait for me." Um, all right. So gosh, I mean, I do want to talk. When we come back, we're gonna talk about this book, and it's a book that gives you, I mean, gosh, it's like Money 101, right? And we're gonna talk about the whole mindset of women and money, why many women have not even gotten involved with handling their finances, and why, and the mindset. And we'll talk about that because you have put such great effort into this book, and it is amazing. So when we come back, with Alison Kosik after the commercial break, we'll do all that. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. If you love what you're listening to, head to powerfulwomenusa.com for previous shows, or you can find my podcast on whatever platform you listen to. Share this with a friend because it's so good. This show is sponsored in part by Jackie Mahali Photography, where personal branding, photography, and video help women entrepreneurs over 40 feel confident, beautiful, and seen. Start getting paid what you're worth. JackieMahaliPhotography.com when it's time to elevate your brand and your image. All right, welcome back. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Alison Kosik is with me. She's the author of What's Up with Women and Money and a news anchor at ABC News. So, Alison, I'm going to show the book because I have all my little markers, right? Let's talk about the book. Who is the book for?
The book is for any woman who doesn't feel confident in managing her financial life. I wrote this book because of the irony here. I was CNN's business correspondent, yet at the beginning of my time there, I wasn't involved in managing my own financial life. I allowed my husband to do all things financial. And that was one of the biggest mistakes of my life, because when the marriage went bad, because I relied on him for all the financial decisions, I stayed years longer than I should have. I felt stuck. I didn't feel like I had the confidence in my ability to handle big financial decisions because I hadn't been making those decisions. I didn't have the experience of being in it. And so I didn't feel like I had the good judgment or the knowledge to do that financial stuff. You know, at the time I had 2 kids under the age of 10. What if I made a mistake and lost all of our money? And when I got through it, I discovered that there are a lot of women across the age spectrum from 18 to 70, across the economic spectrum, low earners to high earners, women who are married, divorced, single, widowed, all of these kinds of women who feel the way I felt, but are afraid to admit it because there's a lot of embarrassment in this. There's a lot of shame in this. And there's a fear of being judged by our peers as looking like we're unintelligent, but that's not the case, because the reality is I wasn't incompetent or incapable. I just wasn't confident. And so I wrote this book to make sure other women don't make the same mistakes I made. And I wanted to help women have a place to start getting control of her financial life, especially if she's feeling overwhelmed, because there's so much information out there. It's like, where do you start? So I wrote this through a journalist lens. I kind of whittled down each topic so you can get through it quickly. And by the end of the chapter, you're actually taking actionable steps to make change in your life. And when I wanted to get a divorce, I looked around and I wanted to find a book that spoke to me, and there really wasn't a book that spoke to me. I mean, sure, there were lots of books about financial literacy, even geared toward women, and there were steps, but it just seems so overwhelming still. And there was nothing that talked to me in the way that made me feel like, well, who am I to open up that book and think that I can take those steps and do those things that that book is telling me to do. And I wanted to know why I felt that way. And so I wrote the book that wasn't out there. I dug into the why many women, not all women, why many women are like this, and why we pawn it off to our husbands or why we avoid it altogether. And there are reasons for that. And so I wanted to put that out there so as women, we could acknowledge that that's out there. And so we can feel comfortable asking questions and not feeling intimidated to say what we don't know. And I just want to say that, people are like, well, how can you go on CNN and talk about, all this stuff about the economy and go to the New York Stock Exchange and blah, blah, blah. And I just want to make it clear that it's different being a journalist and speaking about, the Federal Reserve and the macroeconomy and the moves in the market and that's different than actually putting your money
Mhm.
into, let's say into investments, or making that decision on which car you want to buy, and signing that car contract. It's very different making personal finance decisions versus being a journalist, and talking about these business concepts that I did for many years at CNN.
Well, it's interesting because even in the very beginning of the book, you write, what's your excuse, right? That's I think that's beginning either a chapter or the very beginning,
Right.
and it's so true. Like, what's your excuse for not taking the financial reins of your life? Why is it society? Why do we hand those reins off to our spouse?
I mean, it could be as simple as, and part of this was me. I mean, it's not that my husband kept me away from it. He very much wanted me involved.
Right.
And I was just like, I was busy. I was like,
Overwhelmed.
you know what?
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed. I had
Yeah.
two young kids. I was working, and I was like, you can handle it. You're good at this. And he was, thankfully, he didn't lose all of our money. But that's the thinking, is that we think that he's good at it. I'm going to let him handle it. I'm going to do the day-to-day bills. I'm going to, make sure the kids are taken care of, and that's how it's going to be. We're going to split it up. And many marriages, we do this. You split up the tasks. I mean, who can do everything? But that can get really really dangerous, because what if the husband, God forbid, gets hit by a bus? Do you know how to pay the mortgage? Do you know where all the assets are? Do you know where all the paperwork for the assets are? Do you know how much debt your family's carrying? What does his life insurance policy say? Does he have disability insurance? Is that something that you need?
Mhm.
Um, uh, what are the passwords to all of your accounts? Who are the beneficiaries on your accounts? Have you looked lately? Did you know that it's not just a one and done thing? You have to really check that, because life changes. And life can change on a dime. Everything is fantabulous now and blissfully happy, but forever isn't guaranteed. And you need to be fully involved in your financial life, and have full visibility over what's coming in and going out money wise, of your household. But see, I want to get back to your question, is what is it? What's our excuse?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the busy life part, that we're really busy and it's easy to just say, husband, you do it.
Yeah.
Or it could be much deeper. There's a cultural component to women's relationship with money. And
Mhm.
whether parents want to admit it or not, maybe they're doing it and they're not realizing it. We socialize girls differently than boys, and boys are often introduced to the family finances a lot earlier. They're encouraged to become financially independent earlier. And the problem is, girls who are less involved can become women who avoid money issues, and that avoidance can be compounding. Just like you avoid something, the more fearful you can become of it. And so what starts, let's say, as a lack of interest, can become a lack of information, which can become a lack of confidence in your ability to tackle this thing. So the more you don't pay attention to it, the bigger and more challenging that thing can become. And so by being socialized this way, you start to believe that money's not, something that's in your domain, and it's complex and intimidating, and it's cultural conditioning that can really lead to that lack of confidence ultimately in just managing our finances and making investment decisions and even negotiating our salaries.
Oh my gosh, which is a great chapter, by the way. Oh, I wrote notes on that too. Well, it's true. I mean, it is. It's so because we just, I don't know, we lack, like you said, the confidence in you and I mean, in ourselves. And you also say at some point, like, like society in general, right? And there's always, women who strive and have gotten to to the top of the mountain and run their own
Oh
business and
yeah.
finances
I
and,
and
but
I don't want,
majority,
yeah, I
but
don't want to generalize. Obviously
yeah,
women are more educated.
yeah.
We're carving out our careers, we're running companies, but I also found that the women who are the breadwinners
Mhm.
in their relationships, more than half of them don't manage their money. They let the husband do it, even though they're bringing home more of the money.
Right. Which is, right? Like you wonder. Well, because it's society. Well, at least when I was younger, right? Men are the leaders and women are the caregivers, right? I mean, and that's we kind of just we take over those roles and some of us, you're like I can't do it all. Like I can't do
Yeah.
I need
It's
help,
easy.
right?
Listen, it's easy to fall into that pattern. I was guilty of it.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean we're bad people. It just means, we just have to look at this differently and know that it can be dangerous to hand over all of the money stuff to one person. And you know what? The same goes for the men. If the women are in the know of all the financial stuff in the household,
Mm-hmm.
men, you have to be involved too.
Right. Well, I mean, how did you teach yourself everything? I mean, you had said in the book, you talk about it, that you were crying at one point because you were ready to leave your marriage, and yet you did not feel the confidence that you could do it, financially. So how did you get to the point where you could?
Well, so what I did was I finally got a full-time job at CNN. So I felt empowered that I would have my own income, because I didn't want him to have to pay alimony. I didn't want to have to rely on my ex-husband
Mhm.
for money in that way. Obviously, he paid child support, but I wanted to I wanted to be on my own 2 feet. And so,
Independence. Yeah.
yeah, so
Money
I
is freedom. Money is
yes.
freedom.
And so I also didn't want to be a burden to my husband. I know that sounds really strange, but I didn't want to be that ex-wife.
Right.
So
Right.
so when I got the full-time, because I had been freelancing at CNN for several years.
Mhm.
And then when I finally got the full-time job, I was like, okay, I can do this. And then I made a series of mistakes with my financial life when I realized I need to really learn how to do this stuff,
Mhm.
and which also helped me kind of branch out into what I wanted to write about it in this book. So one of the things that I can mention that one of the first things I had to do when I got the divorce was I had a leased car, and I was like, I need to turn in my car. And how hard could this be? I'm a smart girl. I can handle this. How hard can it be? I know what I want to pay per month. I
Mhm.
know how much the cost of the car is. We'll see what happens. And so I waltzed into the car dealership, not even just like planning anything at all. I didn't get any prior financing. I just sort of was like, oh, I'll just finance it through the car dealership. Yeah. And I walked in and I committed the two cardinal sins. The guy asked me what I was looking to do, buy or lease, and I told him. And he asked me how much I wanted to pay per month for the car, and I told him. And little did I know, I released all leverage just by giving
Yes.
those two bits of information. And I didn't realize I was probably ripped off. I didn't realize I was probably ripped off until I started writing that car chapter. Um, that you just give away all the leverage when you give all that information away. And so I'm thrilled to it's actually one of my favorite chapters in the book is how to buy a car, because
Oh.
especially for women and
Mhm.
anybody
Very
really.
intimidating. It's very
Oh
intimidating.
yeah, think about it,
Yep.
Jill. This car salesmen and car saleswomen, they do this every day of their life when they're at
Yeah.
work. We
Right.
don't do this, but for like once every few years, they've got the system down pat. We don't. We don't know the jargon. So yeah, we're definitely at a detriment here. So it's important to really understand the process, understand what the jargon is. And as I write about in What's Up with Women and Money, you can actually start researching and buying a car, doing the actual buying of the car while you're home. You don't have to walk into a dealership until the very end. So pretty much 90% of all the work you have to do when you're buying a car
Mhm.
can literally be done in front of your computer and a phone. And you can negotiate off each car dealership through email.
Well, I mean, it's another thing. It's hard to learn that, and you have to almost learn by trial and error, right? And let's be
Yeah.
honest, because I've been in those shoes. You walk in there, it, they know they see it coming, right? They see a woman by herself coming in, and I just, I don't know. The things happen, and I feel like some people, salesmen, take advantage of that.
Oh, the ones who I interviewed in the chapter, they admit that they
Yeah.
when they see a woman walk in, especially without having a guy near
Right.
her or a guy walking in with her, they immediately see her as just this is going to be an easy sale.
Oh my God. Oh, you know what? You talk about a little bit in the book. And so this is an interesting fact to everybody who's listening. 1974. That is, I mean, I'm older than that. Let's just say that. Equal Credit Opportunity Act was passed that allowed women to open bank accounts, take out credit cards, get mortgages without a male cosigner. 1974. That's not that long ago. And women had to fight for the right to do that, right? And we're still fighting for rights, and we have to fight to preserve them. But I just thought it it was our culture. It was everything that it was okay for women to not have financial independence. So,
And yeah, well, it was okay by the eyes of the law. I mean, it was something obviously we fought for. And so then I do question, why are we relinquishing that? Why are we letting our husbands handle, all things financial? Why are we maybe even avoiding the things we know we should be doing? And that's the thing. Women know, we know what we should be doing. We know we shouldn't, let's say, and I'm not stereotyping here, I'm just saying, for
no.
example, we know we shouldn't be spending as much. We know we should have visibility over what our budget is, and how much we should be spending and how much we should be saving and putting into an emergency account. And yes, even in this tough environment, investing. We know we should be doing these things. We're just not doing them. And I lay out why it's important to do that.
I love those chapters because I'm not a big investor, but I'm working on it, and I think reading those chapters is really very important, and I think everyone should read them because you learn so much, and it kind of like you are able to. I think you have a little bit more power now. You feel a little empowered after you read it. You also talk about we talked about it a little bit before, but you talk about imposter syndrome, and you had a few celebrities weighing in to fake it till you make it in the workforce at the in the boardroom wherever and then you talk about readiness and you talk about visualization. So talk about that. Talk about how important that is to feel confident and to, visualize how you want to be.
Oh yeah, I talked with a financial psychologist about this, and there is a lot of emotion that goes into women's relationship with money, and one of the things that this financial psychologist Brad Klons suggested, or that showed actually in his studies, was that those who visualize the goal in mind. So let's say I want to take that trip to Tahiti and I need to save up enough money. And his study showed that people who actually visualize it in a way that you feel the sand under your toes, and you taste and you smell the sea air, and you taste that drink in your hand while you're sitting on the beach, and you really immerse yourself kind of in your own mind and visualize what you want, that you are more likely to attain that goal in putting that money away than if you didn't visualize that. And he shows that in the savings or investment rates in his study, which I thought was BS. When I said, "Oh my gosh, how is it just that you think of something and yeah, I can visualize myself there, but how does that help?" He says, "Yes, it really does help."
Mm-hmm.
And it is that it's a really, your mind is really powerful in this way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, you were so funny because in the book you call BS so many times. Though you were just very frank in how you write, and I loved it. I just thought
Thank you.
it was so good. I want to call it the girlfriend's guide to money, like because it's like your bestie's guide to money,
Oh, thank you,
like
Joe.
lady. Oh, you're welcome, ladies. Here's how it goes, and you know what? And even your budgeting, which I loved, to do a couple things. You talk about 30 minutes, I think, once a week to go through your budget, right? Like
Right.
what you spent it on, do a little review. And then you have like, what was it? The sneaker, the high heel, like the different equated to shoes because I love shoes. So that really resonated with me.
I mean, who doesn't want to kind of visualize a shoe when they're trying to budget their money or they're
Hmm.
trying to get out of debt? And I did the
Hmm.
shoe analogy with that as well. Listen, I'm trying to make it fun because I mean, let's be honest. It can get boring. Financial stuff can get boring, and I wanted to kind of make it fun. And yeah, I did get a little bit of blowback from some women saying, "Oh my God, did you have to use the shoe analogies?
Oh
It's
God,
so stereotypical." And I'm
I
like,
love
"Come on,
it.
let's have some fun. Why does everything have to be so serious? Let's
Why do
have
we
some
have to
fun
be
in getting our
ashamed that we
budget
love
together."
shoes? Why do you have to be ashamed that you love shoes? I love shoes. I love handbags, and I'm okay with it. Okay, everybody? That's the way it goes. You know what's funny? You also said about saving money. We have about 2.5 minutes, but you talk about saving money and the gender wage gap. Women make less money than men. 43% of Americans say they live paycheck to paycheck, and majority of them are women. Oh, almost 80%, I think you said. That was so shocking to me.
Yeah, I mean, well, women, so the gender pay
8%.
gap varies year per year. Women make 84%, 84 cents on the dollar that men make. And it's not just a job. This can be life-changing money. Because if you add it up over a career of 40 years,
Mm.
and that includes, compounding in the market, but that's a loss of $2.8 million that women are losing out on. And so it's not just one job, it's lifetime money. And
Right.
it's why it's so important for women to negotiate your salaries.
Oh my God, that is such a good chapter, and you talk about that. You have the whole chapter. You say to negotiate like a man. 60% of women have never negotiated with their employer. Another stat that like what? Wow.
Yeah, we think that there's a penalty. And you know what? And when I wrote that, I didn't put this in there, but there was a time when I was looking for a TV job and one of my first TV jobs. And I remember I went to this to the TV station. It was in Utica, New York, and I tried to get a higher salary. I remember I got back home and was on the phone with the news director, and I tried to negotiate my salary, and he rescinded the offer. He said, "I don't think you really want this job."
Wow.
So that exists.
All
Yeah.
right. 10 seconds for advice to investors, for women or something, for financial health.
I think the top takeaway I want readers to walk away with is know that sitting on the sidelines, uninvolved in your finances and your financial future is such a bad idea, that waiting for a crisis to get involved is often too late, and that it's not a choice to get involved in the full visibility of your finances. This is a must. Whether you're married or single, it's imperative that you have full visibility over all things finance.
Oh my gosh, Alison Kosik, What's Up with Women and Money? Such a great book. You've been listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Thank you, Alison, for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jill.
I'll attach a link to buy the book on social media. So if you want to buy it, please check it out. We all need this book, ladies. Listen to more shows on my podcast, whatever platform you listen to: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube, and now iHeartRadio. You can also connect on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that jazz. You know it. I'm Jill Conway. Thank you for listening to the show, celebrating incredible women like Alison. I hope you are inspired to pursue your own goals, believe in yourself, and dream bigger. Your voice matters, and your story can help others. I hope you join me next time.